Hello there.
Hello, how are you?
I'm right, thanks. How are you?
I'm all right. It's a rainy day in New York, so you know,
Oh,
good and talk about the happiest movie of the year.
it's completely suitable. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I saw it at Telluride and kind of didn't know the full scope of it, and yeah, that was a lot, and I think it's it's such an interesting film because it speaks to different people for different reasons, and when I spoke to Andrew, he was like, "Good, I hope so. Like, I don't want it to just be aimed at one person." And I'm sure reading it,
Mm.
um, it strikes you as different things. So I'm curious when you first read it, even before you know you're going to do it. It's just, do I like it? Is it something I think I can do? How is it striking you before you even sort of think about how do I then play it?
Yeah, I mean, I had quite an interesting um way into reading it. Basically, my agent phoned me up, my American agent Billy, and was very effusive and because obviously they'd already read it
Sure.
and emotional about the story. And obviously agents read lots of scripts all the time, so that was a and they are wonderful human beings, but that was, I was like, this is really interesting. I also obviously was going into it with a knowledge of Andrew Haigh and what
Yeah.
sort of filmmaker he is, and I'd really always been so moved in surprising ways by his films that I'd seen. So I've seen all his films, but yes, and so I there was quite a lot of anticipation and about reading it. And then you're so right that what's so interesting about it is it can mean so much to one person in a particular way, and then it will mean something to someone else in a completely other way. But people are still able to have a conversation about the film, which is like a lack of ownership, weirdly, about what the film is trying to say. Because to be able to do that, to do a film that's sort of so universally um like not accepted isn't the right word, but be able to be interpreted in that way by so many different people is a real feat. I don't think he set out to do that necessarily, but I think just by being so honest and truthful about these emotions, that's what ends up happening. Um, so yeah, reading it was, it was very clear that it was beautifully written. But I did, I had huge, I was like, so are we going to be see through? Like, what do we look like? Can we touch each other? Like, is there going to be like some sort of effect that happens when we come on? And then I just trusted that Andrew would know the right thing to do, basically.
Yeah.
And he turns out he did.
Yeah, for sure. No, you especially your character. So I remember I was, sitting with people who the romance, the love story was very much what was affecting them. And I
Yeah.
was sitting there going, I had lost my mother in January, going, oh,
Mm.
that's what this movie is about. And it
Oh
was,
God, I'm sorry.
yeah, well, not your fault. But no, it was,
No, I know, but the experience of watching the film, when I watched the film, I watched it with one of my friends, and knowing her history, it was then you're very suddenly aware of another person's experience of what they must be feeling and thinking whilst watching it.
oh yeah, no, people were very curious afterwards because they saw me kind of like doing that. They're like, did you fall asleep or not? I was like, no, I just, it was heavy. But I think
Yeah,
that's the thing that he does so well, and I think that you and Jamie do so well, is you then take that experience, and because it's in some way universal, either you've lived it or you will live it essentially, it
mm,
becomes somewhat cathartic because um there's a specific scene in the movie that is a scene nobody gets. And
yeah,
this person gets it. And I think
mm,
you have the line of the year maybe when you're like, but it never would be enough, would it? It speaks to, I
mm.
think, just this very simple thing that the movie does so well of showing you emotions and making it yours as well. It's I don't know. I'm sure making it you have that feeling, but in a way you never quite know until other people watch it because who's to say what's going to happen? But I imagine on set you kind of have that feeling.
I think that the concept of the film, like the things that the characters are going through or have been through, and the Adam's history of having lost his parents when he is young, like you say, like it's a fundamental in life. Like it is, even though we may try and ignore it or deny it for as long as humanly possible, like that's it. Like we're all going to lose, and then we are going to be lost. Like that's it. um and I think the more we can remind each other of that,
Yeah.
and the more we can remind each other to feel it and to acknowledge it, and to, it's very hard to accept it, I think, but to um portray it, I suppose, is helpful. It gives people an outlet for it. It gives people a way of understanding it and seeing it, and it not being something that feels isolating or just something that you're going through on your own. Or um and you're right, like you don't know ever if what you do is going to have any it's going to translate into anything that happens when people watch it in the cinema. You just don't know. But there were certain moments in this film where it felt like we weren't really in control of where the narrative was taking us emotionally, which I think was probably quite important, because we had to surrender to it in a way that was um in the same way that they were out of control in it. They didn't know, none of them. And I think there were moments that meant an awful lot to me. It's obviously incredibly satisfying as a professional to know that they then have that impact on other people, but more on like a personal level, I know how much feeling something whilst watching a film can help you and as a person. And so I'm very honored to be in a film that might do that for people.
Sure. And I think even just in terms of narratively watching something as a film, even if you take away the emotions, just the character you play and the character that Jamie plays, I don't know that I've ever seen it done that way before, because they're aware of the situation. Normally it's very one-sided. It would be Andrew Scott. His perspective would be your perspective. And here you get, well, it's not necessarily scenes of you guys from your point of view, but there is an awareness of, oh, we know the situation we're in as well, and we're dealing well. And that's just a kind of stroke of genius. But I imagine also one of the most appealing things in playing it is that you're playing a three-dimensional character. You're not just playing someone's memory of a character.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a sense in me that I was in service to Andrew, to Adam, in the sense that I was a memory in the beginning. I think what ends up getting a bit more complicated is when they start asking questions,
Yeah.
or when they start having feelings that are beyond, or asking questions and they find things out and that has an impact on their being.
Yeah.
That's when I think they, somewhere, all of them know that it's going to have to end, because that first night is like some blissful dream where all of them are together again and time has stood still, and so none of them are really engaging in the reality of what's going on. They're just wanting it to be what it is and not think about it. And then I think when the reality sometimes seeps in, I think that's when they know it can't last, and that's so heartbreaking for all of them. um but yeah, there is a real like freedom in knowing that you're not tethered to facts. And
Yeah.
I'm quite a fact-based person as an actor. Like I really like knowing what my limits are, or knowing, you know, it makes me feel safe. But for this, I just had to feel quite uncomfortable. But that became a really lovely feeling of just going, I know what the fundamentals are, but here we are. Who
Yeah.
knows? Can I drink this cup of tea? No, I can't. But I'm not going to not drink this cup of tea because I can't drink it. Anyway, yeah. It became quite a fun process.
I can imagine. I think as we wrap up, the end result being something that was fulfilling as an actor and also will clearly mean so much to so many people. I suppose I speak for a lot of people, and I not just congrats, but also thank you for, in a way, bringing parents back for a little bit. So that
Oh
was
my God, stop it.
well, I have to stop anyway, but I thought that was truly, I think, something that makes the movie special and why it's being responded to in that way. So you should be incredibly proud of it.
Thank you. It's very kind.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for doing this.